But, you know, the point being is, if I don't open my mouth and talk to Michael Lewis and just be me, which is just someone to talk to anybody, you know, whining Brit in the stamp line, then we're all not in this room together. I can tell you, most of you people wouldn't have had the experience you had watching the show, because that which I brought was sort of something that was prevalent by a lot of the people, and I think reading the piece just brought a lot of that kind of energy to it, and it just all assisted us in raising the level at which we committed ourselves to do excellent things and just be mindful of what we were involved with. Mindfulness. I just want to talk about one more thing. I'll let everyone ask me a question. During the winter, and this is probably going to bum some people out, but I got to talk about this because it bummed me out when it happened. During the winter, I got an email from a couple of very special fans that I'm sort of in a network with, and it was a email that was talking about Linda's breakup with her husband James Cameron. For those of you that don't know, have been living in a cave. Linda Hamilton was the woman who played the beauty. Then she was in that Terminator 2 movie, and then she got married to the director, and he made a movie, small little independent movie called Titanic. And then he won like a lot of awards and proclaimed himself king, and then they got divorced. Well, so, you know, that's kind of public news, and we can all chuckle about it a little, but at some point I was sort of an article where the internet was brought to my attention that someone had written in fandom, pretty sure that's how it went, somebody in our sort of group of family through all these years sort of wrote this article that they knew that the reason Jim left Linda was that she was an alcoholic and a drug abuser, and I don't know, probably lesbian, dope addict, bad parent ended up in it. But for the most part, it was that Linda's drinking problem and stuff was something that caused their marriage to break apart. And I took offense to it for two reasons. One was it wasn't the truth, but you know, listen, you know, I'm sure there's a handful of people in here that buy newspapers that make their living on not telling the truth, but that's a whole other story. But the other thing that really sort of disappointed me was that it wasn't just one person's opinion. It seemed like it had danced around with a lot of people that all sort of knew what they knew. Go figure out they know, since I'm pretty much the only person I know in my world and in Linda's world that spends any time in that kitchen to watch that relationship grow and come apart. But it just sort of it broke my heart to the point where, you know, you guys all know me as a pretty funny, lighthearted guy. I actually wrote something back to the person who wrote this email. If you're in this room, you probably know who I am. If you don't, I'm that guy who wrote that nasty email back. And basically, what I said was, mind your own stinking business, because you don't know what you're talking about. And even if you did, is that what your life should be about, is hanging over the fence, yakking to your neighbor about someone else's misfortune? So, my request to you all, because as you know, I've made some through the years, is, you know, it doesn't need to be someone like me to stand up in these type of situations. Anyone else that may have received that email that knew, even if you weren't sure that it was true or not, but you felt like, God, what an unpleasant thing to put out about someone else, whether it be a celebrity or, you know, a teacher down in your local elementary school. I would just love to know that if someone feels hurt by that type of thing, you know, take that email back or a phone call back and say, you know, what you know may or may not be true, but it's really none of your stinking business. And I would just love the fact that anybody that wants to support me in that kind of transformation out there, you know, jump on board. I'm more than happy to take the risk. And with that, I think we've used up my time. Thank you for allowing me to speak my piece, and thank you for asking me to talk to you.
Tell you to sit down was because I knew some of what was going on at the time, and I just want to tell you, most of us said that. I just want David to know, and you could tell Linda if you want to, that we supported you and how you felt, and most of us did. I don't know who didn't, you know, who the people were. I don't want to know, but for the most part, we all said, mind your own business. This is not know or even talk about.
That's good to know. I mean, the funny thing about this kind of stuff is, there's only a few people that read these things. Like Linda wouldn't know that this is what people are saying. And in the same way, and I saw Tom Cruise on television last night, he constantly fights these tabloids because he and his wife are always, seem to be in these tabloid stories. From what I see on the news, I don't know. And it's very rare that celebrities will actually put themselves even one step further out to get in some sort of jousting. What's the word, Eddie? Fencing. Jousting, thank you. With this, because in some regards, it's like, how do you defend yourself against some ridiculous, inane story when it's like, why? Why exhale any breath over this when there's so many more wonderful things to do, like, raise money for charity, or just be with your family, or just assist your next door neighbors in like putting up a fence. The last thing you want to do is sit out in the world and defend something that doesn't exist. But so I'm just glad to know that, listen, in my heart, I know like I wasn't the only one out there saying this. And the reason I know that is because some very special people brought it to my attention and they felt the same way. So I know I was probably one of the last ones to speak out. But just wanted to let you know that if you know those people, or if you're friendly with those people and they'd like to talk with me this weekend, I would be more than happy to tell them how I feel face to face, in a Philly sort of way. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So, all right, my dear friend is standing in the back of the room, and he's got much more delightful stories than I. Again, we'll be talking about that tonight, but I just am so happy that every year for the last 7 or 8 years that I've been involved, a handful of people like start bugging me and saying, hey, we're going to have this party somewhere in a hotel ballroom, somewhere where it's hot and humid. Please come. And I say, well, yeah. Like, where else do you think I'd want to be? So I hope that you keep requesting that I join you at these family events.